Welcome to Shiny Shoulders in your postpartum. So what that means is if you are a feeding mom, which you are, it doesn't matter if you're bottle feeding or breastfeeding, there's this rounding through the upper thoracic and the shoulders that causes a lot of tension in the upper and lower back. Kind of creates this posterior pelvic tilt. And when we're nursing and feeding our babies, our scapulas get really stuck. So it causes a lot of upper back tension. So this particular class, Shiny Shoulders, is going to focus all on the upper thoracic and getting some mobility in those shoulder blades. So all you'll need for this class is maybe 2 blocks. So they can either be wood foam block, maybe a thicker dimension of a book if you have at home. You'll probably need 2 of them, and make sure you have a bolster handy beside you as well. So we're going to actually start this class laying down on the back, which is, in my opinion, the best way to start a yoga class. So just have your props handy beside you, but then go ahead, and if you're sitting down, you're just going to lay over either to the left or right side, and we'll make our way into a supine position laying directly on the back. So the best way in postpartum to do that is to side lay and then roll over, press into the feet, just lift the hips and pelvis up for a moment. So it gives a nice reset for our sacrum. And then we'll lower the sacrum down towards the mat. And then you can go ahead and stretch and extend the legs straight out. So in our practice of yoga, this is called Shavasana, and that's exactly where we're going to start. I love starting this way because it's a great comparison after class when we do our final Shavasana to just notice those subtle changes in the body. So laying the palms beside the hips, your feet are hip width apart or a little bit wider, and just allow the toes to release out to the side. So what I'd like you to notice is the left and right side. So if you need to adjust any movements in your shoulders, your arms, your legs, or your pelvis, please go ahead and do so until you find that the left side feels just as even and heavy as it does on the right side. And then we'll gently close the eyes. So let's start by taking a nice deep full breath in towards the chest and the heart. Big audible exhale out. So one more such, take a nice full inhalation to lift and expand, and then big exhale to let go. So we're simply quieting that space between the eyebrow center, keeping your lips together. Separate the teeth and let the tongue slowly fall to the bottom of the mouth. On the inhalation, we can lift the breath towards the chest and the heart, but on the exhalation, find heaviness in that space, specifically between the shoulder blades. Another deep inhalation, we're breathing towards the lower part of the belly, and as you exhale, letting the weight of the lower belly begin to soften towards the lower part of the spine. So with each and every sensation of your exhalation, there's this heaviness. We should feel as though the physical body begins to sink deeper and deeper into the mat. And then as the body starts to become still and silent, just noticing the movements of your natural breath. So when you inhale, it's helpful to place a hand on your belly and a hand on your heart. And on this inhalation, just noticing where your breath goes first. So do you feel the belly rise before the chest, or do you feel the chest rise before the belly? Noting on the exhalation any physical tension through the spine and specifically the back of the pelvis. So even softening down through the glutes. If you have the tendency to breathe into the belly, can you now breathe in towards your chest? And if you have the tendency to breathe into your chest, can you now breathe in towards the belly? Most moms will have the tendency to breathe towards the chest. And when we do, our rib cage and our scapulas and a lot of the muscles in our back body are so stuck and tight that we have the tendency to lift the shoulders to the ears. And that's why we love to chest breathe. So can you find more mobility in the lower part of your belly if you have the tendency to breathe in towards your chest? So this class is all about creating more range, more mobility, more movement for all those pesky little muscles that get a bit stuck. Gently beginning to release the arms alongside the body, your eyes will stay closed, and I want you to bring your awareness now towards your back body. So just noticing the difference between your left and right shoulder blade. So you can gently kind of feel maybe the blades protruding ever so slightly down towards the mat. Do you notice which side feels a little bit higher or heavier than the opposite side? And what do those positions of the scapulas, of the shoulder blades, have to do with the low back? Do you find that your low back just curves ever so slightly off the mat? Do you feel tightening in that space or area? So with each and every sensation of your exhalation, can we just begin to move the breath into these spaces? So much about our practice of yoga is integrating the movements of the breath towards spaces in our body that feel really stuck and tight. So let's just take one more big inhalation. Nice big audible exhale out. Perfect. You can open the eyes, but all you need to do is just follow my direction in this next pose. So we're staying on our backs, pretty simple. We're just going to adjust the arms out to a T position so that your wrists kind of align with your shoulders. And then I just want you to, for a moment, keeping the legs as they are, just noticing your toes are probably drawing out to the left and right side. So you're creating some automatic external rotation in the hips. So here's what we're going to do. Place the palms of the hands down towards the floor. So now we just created some internal rotation in the shoulders. And I just want you to pause here. So big breath in towards the chest. Nice big exhale out. So noticing what the palm of the hands does to the shoulders. Where's the sensation? Does it feel a bit tighter? Does it create some relief? And then we're going to move between our hips and our shoulders. So right now we're internally rotated in our shoulders and we're externally rotated in our hips. And we're going to change that. So what I want you to do at the same time, let's just go arms first. So rotate the palms of the hands all the way open and back. So I want you just to see, and your hands will lift off the floor a little bit, and just see how far you can point the palms of the hands maybe towards the back wall. So now we're externally rotating the shoulders, and then we're going to roll the palms of the hands back down. So that's the shoulder movement. Let's take it up again. Big breath in. On the exhalation, lift the arms up. Slowly start to rotate, and we are rotating from the shoulders, not just the wrists or the hands. The wrists and the hands are following the movements. Palms of the hands face back. Pause and hold, and then lower the palms of the hands down. Good. Just relax your arms. Keep the palms of the hands facing down, and we'll work the same with our hips. So with your feet right now, they're externally rotated. Let's go ahead and start to draw the toes to point up and see how much you can point the toes towards one another, but making sure this movement is again from the hips. So you're internally rotating from the thighs. Pause and hold, and then exhale. Just draw the feet to the side as they normally do. So just release into the hips. So one more time, take a big breath in. It's really slow movements. Start to rotate your hips. So imagine kind of pointing or drawing your hip pointers to point towards one another. Pause and hold. You might feel like your sit bones draw apart. And then as you exhale, relax the legs completely. So let's combine those two movements. We're going to internally rotate the hips. We're going to externally rotate the shoulders. So if you're ready, lifting the arms ever so slightly off the floor. And as we take the arms and the palms of the hands back, you're going to spin your thighs in. So you're going to internally rotate the hips. We're going to pause and hold here. So you're working at your own pain-free range of motion. And what that means is we feel the stretch, but it shouldn't create any pain in the body. Good. So we're just going to hold this. It's a passive range, passive stretch. One more big breath in, and then exhale, roll the palms of the hands down, feet out to the side. Rest everything in between. Take a nice big breath in, big exhale out. We're going to repeat that one more time. So we're going to compare this once again to the last part of our class. Lift the arms up, roll the palms of the hands back. As you do so, your toes and thighs and hips are rolling in. So your hip pointers coming in towards one another. So you feel this external rotation in the shoulders and this internal rotation in the hips and pelvis. Pause and hold here. Good. So one more big breath in. As you exhale, palms roll down, feet draw out, lower the arms. Let the palms of the hands just face up at this moment. Slight bend in the elbows. Take a big breath in, and then nice big exhale out. Draw the hands back alongside the body. Take a moment to bend into the knees one at a time. So we're just going to shift that weight, push into the feet, lift up the hips and the pelvis up, and then we'll slowly draw the sacrum down. So we're just going to pause here for a moment, making sure, of course, that your knees are over top of your ankles. You can even do a little side glance to make sure that the shins are vertical. We'll take the arms. So now we're just going to mobilize the scapulas. So those are your shoulder blades. You're going to take your arms into a cactus arms position. So here's the thing, moms, depending on where you are in your postpartum period, I'm still notoriously tight in my shoulders, and my baby's almost 7 years old. So shoulders are still a boon to me every single day. I want you to adjust your arms where you feel solid in your shoulders. So where you feel like your shoulders can relax on the floor without creating tension. So what you might have to do is lower the elbows down towards the hips. You might have to take your hands out a little bit wider. So wherever you can retreat in this pose, relax in this pose, is where I first want you to go with your shoulders. So close the eyes and feel it. So feel this position versus seeing what my arms are doing. And then notice your ribs. So we have the tendency to push the ribs up and kind of create this curve in the lower part of the spine. That's normal. That curve is supposed to be there. It just has a tendency to exacerbate with pregnancy. So we're just going to move a little bit deeper into the core and try to isolate the muscles around the scapula. So what I want you to do is draw the ribs down. So as you draw the ribs down, you're going to notice that that curve in the back presses into the floor, and maybe your pelvis or your tailbone lifts slightly off the mat. And that's okay. So what I want you to do is make sure that the lower belly is pressing down, or at least the ribs are pressing down, and you feel really long through the base of the spine. And we're going to keep that. It's really hard to do. Draw the chin slightly down towards the chest. So keep the ribs in and down, making sure there's no curve along that low spine. And then you want you to start to play around with your arms. So you're going to begin to take your arms up and overhead just a little bit longer and higher. So they still slide along the floor. Okay, so the elbows won't lift off the floor, nor will the shoulders. And then when you feel that you're at your height, keeping the ribs down, pausing and breathing, and then you can slowly on the exhalation draw the elbows back to your normal range and position. So the hardest part is not letting your ribs flare up. We're going to try to keep the ribs nice and stable. Where your stop point is where your ribs want to push up. Okay. So we'll do that a few more times. Keep the eyes closed, find your neutral position with your arms and shoulders. Take a big breath in. On the exhalation, we take the arms up and overhead, and we're going as far up with the ribs drawing down, lower back connected on the mat. Pause and hold when you feel like there's a really big stretch. Also might feel it in the front of your pecs, down into your lats, which is incredibly important. And then on that exhalation, let's once again draw down with the elbows to neutral. Relax the abdomen for a moment. Let your ribs draw forward. Take a big breath in. We're going to do that a couple more times. So draw the ribs down, right? Moving the back towards the floor. See if you can take your arms up just a little bit higher. So each time you do so, keeping the elbows on the floor, you should be able to stretch the arms just a little bit higher above the head. Okay, so what's going to dictate how far you take your arms up is your elbows and your rib cage. So making sure that ribs stay down. It's really hard to breathe in that position when you do so, which shows you the relationship between the ribs and the diaphragm. So really important. And then on the exhalation, you'll draw your elbows down. Just release everything completely. Let it all go. One more time. We'll take a big breath in. On the exhalation, connect the ribs down. Draw the lower back towards the floor. We're going to take the arms just a little bit higher. Keep the elbows down. They're slightly splayed. You can even move your chin down towards the chest. Pausing here. So the lower back stays grounded. Ribs are down. Good. So in pregnancy, the baby pushes against the organ tissue back and sort of displaces some organs up and towards the ribs. So this is where it gets a little bit sticky. And then exhale, you can release the arms completely alongside the body. Take a moment just to wag your legs out to the left side and to the right side. Good. Let's lift the knees one at a time towards the shoulders. Take a moment just to gently rock from side to side. So you can lift your head off the floor as well if you need. It's nice to bring the chin towards the chest after that last stretch. And then we'll exhale, bring the pads of the feet to the floor. So lowering the head down towards the floor, really simple stretch. And because our breast tissue has enlarged, this one you have to go over top of your breasts. Okay, so you're going to cross your elbows in front of one another. Some of you might feel like this is a really nice relief. Others might not. But we're stacking the elbows just in front of each other and just lay the palms of the hands towards the shoulders. So what this pose should feel like is that the elbows are stacked above the heart. And I just want you to take a nice big breath in. This is all about the shoulder blades. And as you exhale, can you just allow the shoulder blades to soften towards the floor? So we're using kind of the gravity and the heaviness of our arms with our elbows stacked in front of the heart to kind of move the shoulders down. So we just did some mobility through the scapula, but now we're just creating a little bit of tension down through the upper thoracic. So it can also be nice if you have a lot of rounding in your upper back and shoulders. Let's open the arms wider, switch directions with the opposite elbow in front. Okay, so taking the opposite elbow in front, heightened just above the heart. Just let the hands relax. If it feels like it's choking you just a little bit, has a tendency to do so because of our enlarged breasts, then you can move your elbows slightly forward. And we just have a big breath in here. We're breathing into the lower part of the belly. And then as you exhale, can you just let your shoulder blades soften towards the floor? So trying to allow that connection between the shoulder blades to release towards the floor. So with one more big breath in, nice big exhale out. Let's open the arms wide. What a beautiful way to start our class. So one more movement here. I want you to take your arms up and overhead. And we're doing this movement supine. We're also going to do this position on all fours in a moment. But with your arms above your wrists, okay, so you really want to stack the joints. And then what I want you to do is push your shoulder blades down into the floor. So you're just going to pause here for a moment. So when you push your shoulder blades down into the floor, you might notice your ribs going down as well. Great to do so. So we're just pausing here. We're placing the shoulders onto the back. Okay? And then here I want you to try to lift your arms as high off the floor as you can. So it's your shoulder blades are going to peel off the floor a little bit. You're going to pause and hold. You can fan your fingers nice and wide. You might feel more of a widening now in your upper back. So we're going to do that a couple times. This is called protraction retraction. So we're going to press the shoulder blades right down into the floor. Good. Pausing and holding. This can also feel really nice. So we were trying to do all sorts of movements through the scapulas, not just one kind of linear movement. Good. And then lift them all the way up. So it's like you're shrugging your shoulders towards the ears. How much can you draw maybe your chest down or your chin down towards your chest, reaching the fingertips up. One more time. Let's exhale. Press the shoulder blades into the floor. Dig deep here. Fan the fingers nice and wide. Just find your breath. We're breathing into the lower belly. Trying to keep the lower belly really strong and sort of supportive for the shoulders to move. And then reaching up with the fingertips like you're going to try to touch the ceiling with your fingertips. Okay, this and also can get into some of those snags underneath the shoulder blades that sort of plague mums. And then we'll release the arms. Good. One more time, just lift the pelvis up. Really nice for the base of the sacrum. And bring the knees into the chest. Take a nice little rock from side to side. So we're going to move into a side laying position. I'm going to roll over to my right side. So you can join me on the right side. So we're at least mirroring one another. And if you need the support of your block, you can take that over top of your head. You can also just support with your arm underneath or as well a pillow. So that's really helpful, again, for moms in the postpartum period that are, that first 12 weeks where the chest is really, really tight. So we're going to move a little bit into your upper thoracic. And we're going to create some mobility and movement here. So rotation. Do we want to feel most of this in the front of the ribs? Okay. So what I want you to do with your kind of index fingers and thumbs, with your elbow pointing up, is just find kind of mid-waist. So just above your iliac crest, your pelvic ridge, and just kind of underneath that lower rib is where I want you to go. And you can even fan the fingers out just a little bit more. It's a pretty mindful stretch. Please bring your knees to stack on top of one another in this pose. We're taking a big breath in. So all I want you to do is with the fingertips and specifically with the thumb, because it's pointing behind you, I want you to sort of roll your rib cage down towards the floor. You're just going to pause here for a moment. So we have a nice big breath in and you're breathing towards that index finger and thumb. And then we're just going to roll back out. And you can roll back out just a little bit more with this left shoulder, so this top shoulder. So on the exhalation, I want you to squeeze out. So we're going to kind of roll the ribs down. So it's your thumbs that's guiding the ribs down towards the floor. The forefingers are just assisting. Relaxing the head. Just pause here for a moment. And on the exhalation, we're going to open up. So we're going to keep moving on the exhalation. So big breath in. Exhale, we're going to rotate those ribs down and forward. Pause here for a moment, just allowing the breaths to flow in and out. And then on that next exhalation, we're going to open up. And as you open up, try to squeeze the legs together. So it's going to change the shift of that upper thoracic. So one more time, as you exhale, let's roll the ribs and shoulders down. It's your thumbs that are gently rolling the ribs down towards the floor. And on the next exhalation, squeeze the legs together. And just roll that left shoulder back. Perfect. One more big breath in. And then as you exhale, let's just draw back to neutral, sending the shoulders over top. And then resting the left palm of the hand to the floor. So please push into the palm of this left hand. And we'll just move into the other direction. So we'll draw onto the side of the hip. You're just going to shift your legs over to the opposite side. You're drawing down once again now onto your left arm and shoulder, tucking this left arm underneath the head for some support. Your knees stack in front of one another. Good. And then we'll bend the right elbow. So this time, middle finger, or rather that index finger and the thumb points behind, finding kind of just underneath those lower ribs. So we're sort of in the mid-center, that center of our rib cage, or at least lower part of the lateral right side. Taking a big breath in here, again on the exhalation. So we're going to try to roll that shoulder down, and it's the thumb that's guiding the ribs forward, keeping the legs stacked on top. So we want to make sure that the knees still align with one another. And then on the next exhalation, you're going to open up. So as you open up, really important to squeeze the legs together. My hand is supporting my head because it doesn't go all the way back, so I'm a little rigid in the shoulders. So exhalation, try to rotate and draw the ribs to draw down. So now here, focus is creating more movement into the lateral movements of the ribs. Squeeze the legs together as we draw that right shoulder back. 2 more times. So we're moving the rib cage. We're trying to get a little bit more rotation in the mid body. So upper chest back, kind of mid thoracic. And then as you exhale, draw all the way back. Your hand can support the head if you need, squeezing the legs together. Last time, moving on that exhalation. It's going to feel really strange. The exhalation is super important because it helps to, as our diaphragm lifts, it helps to take pressure off the pelvic floor muscles. So any load-bearing movement you're doing, please do so on an exhalation. And then we'll draw that shoulder forward. Bringing now the right palm of the hand to the floor, just taking a big breath in. And then as you exhale, let's push into the palm of this right hand, and then we'll draw back into a seated position. So finding a comfortable cross-legged position, bring the palms of the feet together. So you're more of a diamond-shaped pattern with your legs. Hug around your ankles, tip the pelvis forward, roll the shoulders back, and just sit up nice and tall. So we're moving into an anterior pelvic tilt. Should feel like there's a little curvature in your back. So big breath in, reaching up through the crown. On the exhalation, I want you to send your hands towards your toes. Reach the shoulders towards the ears and just pause here for a moment. So when you inhale, you're breathing in towards your lower middle to upper spine. And as you exhale, we're just releasing from that upper middle to lower. So you want to feel this heaviness, this rounding in that upper thoracic, trying to move the breath into the back line of the body. With one more big breath in, on the exhalation, let's slide the hands. So take your time, keep the chin as it is. Begin to round up vertebrae by vertebrae, rolling the shoulders back to look forward. Hands underneath the knees, and you can stretch the legs in front, giving them just a little bit of a shake out. So we'll switch onto hands and knees. So moving your legs over to the left side, you can gently begin to draw forward onto all fours. So I'd like you to walk your hands slightly beyond your shoulders. So we're a little longer of a stance, curl the toes under, and then we'll lift the hips into downward facing dog. So we're spreading the fingers nice and wide, creating a movement here. So take a nice deep bend into one knee and start to root and press through its opposite heel. So this one's for the legs, moving from hip to hip and side to side, reaching high through the hips. On this next exhalation, let's gently bend into the knees and we'll come back down onto all fours. So take your knees wide, big toes to touch. Reaching the arms forward and just lowering the forehead to the floor. So because this is our first wide-legged child's pose, you can also stack your forearms on top of one another. You can draw onto your forearms, making fists with the wrists, whatever you feel as though you need in the support of your neck and your shoulders. So big breath in here. You don't have to be sitting back towards the heels if your knees and hips are quite tight, but on the exhalation, letting the weight of the sit bones begin to fall towards the heels. So one more big breath in. Next exhalation, looking forward, hands underneath the shoulders, and then we'll find a tabletop position. So your wrists are underneath your shoulders and your hips are over top of your knees. This one is referred to as shoulder flossing. So similar to what we did when we were laying on our back, we were moving our arms forward and moving the arms back. It's exactly the same position we're going to try to do again, but this one is more weight bearing with gravity in the opposite direction. So here, take a big inhalation. Your arms have to stay nice and long, pressing through the index fingers and thumbs. I'm going to draw the chest towards the floor. So squeeze the shoulder blades together. Your neck is neutral, meaning your neck doesn't move. Your gaze just looks down. And then exhale, push into those index fingers and thumbs and try to widen your shoulder blades towards the ceiling. So again, the only thing that moving is your shoulder blades. So chest and heart draw down. So you'll notice that I'm not moving my lower back. I'm moving the sides of the pelvis to the midline of the body. So my back, my abdomen stays nice and strong and supportive as I can just work on isolating the shoulders. So moving the shoulder blades apart. I just want you to follow your breath on your inhalation, lower the chest and heart down, keep the ribs tucked back, sides of the pelvis to the midline of the body. Nice big exhale, push through those index fingers and the thumbs. So you're pressing away from the floor, sliding and gliding the shoulder blades out. One more time, chest and heart begins to lower. Good. And then as you exhale, push into the palms of the hands, nice width through the shoulder blades. If it's available, I'd like you to find your weight of your sit bones on your heels. I'm just going to turn forward and we'll work with a bit of a wrist stretch after that. So take a moment just to shake the wrists out. Yeah. Making fists with your wrists, just rotating them in one direction, followed by the opposite. So if you're not comfortable sitting on your heels, you can switch to a cross-legged position. You can also find a pillow, just tuck it underneath your sit bones between your heels. So we'll bring the palms of the hands together. At this point, the hands are in a prayer position and you'll notice your elbows kind of align with your wrists. This is really important for this shoulder stretch and wrist stretch to make sure your elbows stay aligned with the wrist. So they're out to the side. So this movement is in your shoulders, but you're also going to feel some pressure through the wrist. So spread the fingers nice and wide. Right, our hands are in prayer position, elbows draw out. Shoulders over top of the hips, gently tuck the ribs back. So we're really going to ignite the core. So here what I want you to do is rotate your fingers and palms to point down towards the floor. Right? So we're externally rotating the shoulders a little bit, finding space in the front of the chest. And in the opposite direction, start to spin your fingers to point towards your heart as much as you can. And we're still pressing into the palms of the hands. So now we're internally rotating the shoulders. Good. A few more times, so we'll rotate the palms of the hands to draw down, shoulders roll away, finding space between the shoulder blades, tucking the ribs back, and then fingers will now point towards the heart, letting the shoulders roll in. There's a squeeze through the palms of the hands, lots of strength through the elbows. One more time, fingers will point down. Good. Externally rotating through the shoulders, and then we'll draw the fingers to point forward. Great little movement you can do when sometimes your babies are just laying in your lap. Good. As long as you have a support where they're not going to roll off your thighs. Hands on the thighs, taking a moment to roll the shoulders back and down. So leaning forward, curl the toes under just for a little foot stretch. I want you to move your sit bones back towards the heel. So pressing into the palms of the hands, this is completely dependent on what's happening with your thighs and your knees, your quads and your sit bones and your feet. So you're only going as far back until you feel a stretch in the base of the feet without the demand on the toes. Draw the shoulders forward. So we're once again in that tabletop position, walking the hands slightly forward. Let's curl the toes under once again into that downward facing dog. So here we have the tendency to really sort of shrug the shoulders towards the ears. We're going to create all that space between the shoulder blades that we're learning about. So the shoulders are actually nice and broad in your downward dog. Reaching high through the hips, we have this nice big bend into one knee, rooting and pressing through its opposite heel. So moving from hip to hip and side to side. And as you exhale, we'll bend into the knees, coming back down onto all fours. I'd like you to grab onto either a block or your pillow. I'm going to use a bolster here just for length. And then finding the weight of the sit bones towards the heels. So if you need some support, you can also tuck a pillow underneath. So give some elevation to your pelvis if it feels too intense in your hips and thighs. We reach the arms forward. So you need maybe 2 blocks, 2 beside one another, just to set up this pose. We want some length for our forehead and our forearms. So reaching the arms forward, you're going to place the forehead just on the very edge of your pillow, bolster, or block. And your arms are beside the head. Palms of the hands are facing towards each other. So moving once again with the scapulas, we're going to take a big breath in. The forehead is a very key component to this position because it's going to keep our spine nice and long. So big breath in. I just want you to start by lifting the right arm off the bolster, pushing down into the left arm. So we're pausing and holding, keeping that right arm elevated. Good. Quieting and breathing into that right shoulder, and then lower the right shoulder towards the floor. Just take a nice big breath in. Next, exhale, push down into the right arm, lift the left arm off the bolster. Palms of the hands still facing towards one another. It's a really small movement because we're really tight in our upper back. So slowly lowering that left arm down. Take a nice big breath in. We'll repeat just one more on each side. So let's exhale, push into the left arm, lift that right arm up, fingers spread nice and wide, keeping the sit bones drawn back towards the heel so we're not compensating in the hips to help the shoulders. And then lower the right arm down. Big breath in. On the exhalation, press into the right arm, lift that left arm off the bolster, spread the fingers nice and wide, reaching those fingertips beyond the crown of the head, and then we'll lower the left arm down. Just rest the wrist completely, the arms in the shoulders. You can even find a soft bend into the elbows. With one more big breath in. On this next exhalation, taking the hands underneath the shoulders, and we'll press ourselves back onto all fours. Just roll or push your bolsters, your blocks, your pillows in front. Onto hands and knees, just curl the left toes under, push through the heel of the left foot. And then we're going to match that with the right foot into a plank pose, only just to make sure that we're long. And the space between our hands and our feet is also long. And we'll move the hips into downward facing dog. So without adjusting your hands and your feet, you'll find that your heels are probably off the floor. This is actually the length you want in downward dog because it's more about creating space between the vertebrae than it is to kind of have a shorter stance with your heels to the floor. So let's walk this one out. We'll take one more big breath in. As you exhale, let's bend into the knees, coming back to onto all fours. I'd like you to sit back on your heels. Once again, switch to a cross-legged position if you need, or take something in between your heels and your sit bones. So moving into one of my favorite shoulder stretches, upper thoracic, upper back stretch. Open the arms wide. This is called eagle arms or Garudasana arms. So we're going to fold the left arm over top of the right. So your left elbow stacks on top of the right. And then your hands will just reach back for your shoulders. So again, in this pose, I'm just going to switch to a side position. So you can see here, we have the tendency as new moms to really love to press everything forward. So the ribs go forward. We overcollapse in the back. So I want you to tuck the ribs back as well as the tailbone towards the floor. Take a big breath in through the side body. And then as you exhale, press the shoulders down and away from the ears. So we're pressing the shoulders away from the ears. Perhaps with your fingertips, you're pulling very gently on the shoulder blades to move space between the shoulder blades. Okay. So big breath in. Here's the tricky part. Open the arms wide so the palms of the hands are in opposite direction. It will be your right hand that comes towards your nose, left hand forward, and we bring the palms of the hands together. So this is where it's called eagle arms. That in itself is not an easy position. So the alternative to that is to just press the backs of your hands and arms together. Okay, so you're going to squeeze your hands and arms together, fingertips point up. So whichever arm position you have, take the elbows up so they align with the shoulders. Big breath, and you're going to gently press into the palms of the hands. So squeeze the hands together, move the shoulder blades apart. So when you inhale, we're breathing into the back body. We're squeezing through the palms of the hands, creating a lot of space through the shoulder blades. Good. So the more pressure you have through the palms of the hands or the backs of the arms, that's what will dictate how much demand we have through that upper thoracic. Let's exhale, arms unwind, hands on the thighs, rolling the shoulders back. Leaning forward, let's do that little toe stretch again. So flip your toes, curl your toes under. Move your sit bones towards your heels. So you decide how much pressure. It's really important to make sure that the pressure feels quite normal on the feet, right? Not getting to that point where it creates too much pressure. And then let's lean forward, point the toes behind, and we'll sit back on the heels. As we open the arms wide, now we'll draw that right arm over top of the left, walking the fingertips towards the shoulder blades, pausing here. Tuck the front ribs back, sit bones towards the heels. Big breath in, trying to draw the breath into the sides of the ribs, and then as you exhale, press the shoulders away from the ears. Great stretch to do after you're done feeding your baby. So especially as you were kind of looking down, this one's so easy to do, shoulders away from the ears. Open the arms wide. So now we have the left hand towards the nose, right hand forward. Good. And we'll draw the palms of the hands together. So we'll take a big breath in here. And as you exhale, we're pressing into the palms of the hands. So again, the alternative is just to squeeze the backs of the hands together. And as you squeeze the backs of the hands together, we want to feel a width between the shoulder blades. So almost imagine the shoulder blades are drawing out. So big breath in here, elbows aligned with the shoulders, noticing where you're feeling some of that tension, tightness, and then on the exhalation, trying to release. So one more big breath in on the exhalation, unwind the arms, hands on the thighs. This time we'll roll the shoulders forward and down. Okay, let's switch positions onto our stomach. So we're gonna move into a prone position. So just laying down onto your tummy. So I understand that you're feeding mums. So we don't want to be very low because we don't actually want to put a lot of pressure on our breasts and in our chest. So this one's actually quite comfortable to do so. It's the only one that I'll have moms work with in postpartum when we're laying down in a prone position. But it can be so nice. 2 things, your back, actually 3, your back, your uterus, and then the front of your chest. So a few things first. While we're here, your elbows are underneath the shoulders. So that's going to help you stay a little propped up so that you have no tension in your chest. Your toes are pointing behind and the arms are like shoulder width apart with your elbows underneath the shoulders. So we don't want to lean forward, applying pressure in the chest. We want to push ourselves away, reaching through the chest and the heart. So moms who have had a cesarean birth, just be really mindful of what that stretch feels like in the front of the abdomen. You can slide your arms forward, which will lower the chest a little bit and decrease the back bend. So if there feels like there's too much tension in the back. Take a big breath in. So first things first, on the exhalation, I want you to close the eyes and just try to relax your back. So your arms are keeping your chest supported, and then just allow the weight of the sacrum to kind of fall towards the pubic bone. I often teach this prone pose. It's one of the best way to release some tightness and stiffness in the lumbar back. Also a really great gentle stretch for the front of the chest. So big breath in, reaching the chest and heart forward, and then on the exhalation, letting the weight of the belly begin to soften towards the floor. So here's where it's going to change a little bit different. I want you just to look over and towards your right foot. So all you're doing is look over and towards the right foot, making sure both hip pointers feel as though they're on the floor. Switching sides. So big breath in, just draw back to center, look forward. And then as you exhale, now just look over your left shoulder towards your left foot. Pretty easy stretch. And it's a nice lateral stretch as well. So inhale, we're going to look forward and change that a little bit. I want you to start to stretch your right arm out to the side. Okay, so you're still on your left elbow. Stretch the right arm out to the side. Wherever you can go, it's kind of just off to the maybe corner edge of your mat. And then once again, I just want you to look back at your right heel. We're going to pause here. So you're pushing into the right hand as well as your left elbow, and just look back towards the right heel. Your arms are still lifting your chest away from the floor, belly relaxed on the mat. Switching arms, let's come back to center, bend the right elbow in. Just take a nice big breath in. As you exhale, stretch the left arm out to the corner edge of that mat, and then bring your gaze to sort of look towards your left foot. Maybe you can't see the heel, but you can see the shoulder. You can pause here. Try not to collapse in that resting right arm. So we're still pushing away from the floor and just opening up through the chest. Good. One more big breath in. As you exhale, let's bend the left elbow in. Going a little further, we're going to change the position of the arm. So now I want you to take the arm out to the side, your right arm out to the side, left elbow still on the floor. And moving a little bit into a lateral position, I want you to see if you can draw a little further to look towards your right heel. So the hands and forearms are pressing into the floor, so it's keeping the chest lifted. And then we're looking over and towards the right heel as much as we can to really give a nice lateral stretch, right? We're getting into those delts again, into the lats, into the serratus anterior in the back. It feels so good. One more big breath in. Let's bend this right elbow in. Soften through the shoulders. Allow the back to relax. And then taking the left arm straight out. So the wrist aligns with your shoulder. Push into your right elbow and the left hand. And lean a little bit to look towards your left heel. So big breath in. We just pause here. You can even close the eyes. Soften through the lower belly. Pushing and pressing into the palm of the hand as well as into that right elbow. So one more big breath in. As you exhale, let's bend the left elbow back. Okay. Taking the hands underneath the shoulders, curl your toes under and slowly begin to move your heels back towards, or your sit bones towards your heels into your balasana position. So wide-legged child's pose. It's going to take some time. We just did some nice back bending. So it's going to take a little bit of time to move your sit bones towards your heels. Find your arms. You can stack the forearms on top. Remember, you can take whichever position you need to. So if you need to lean slightly forward with your hips and heels above your with your sit bones above your heels, you can. Otherwise, a little bit more of a stretch through those inner thighs and that low back, you can draw into your resting child's pose. So big breath in here. On the exhalation, just letting the weight of the seat begin to soften towards the floor. One more big breath in. Nice big exhale out. Hands underneath the shoulders, and we'll once again press forward onto all fours. So this next position is a thoracic twisting, and we're going to use kind of one side of our body stay really stable as we try to isolate and rotate some movement into its opposite. So let's keep the left palm of the hand to the floor. Your shoulders are over top of the wrists. Your hips are over top of the knees. Permission here, since we'll be kneeling for a moment, to take something underneath your knees for more comfort. So you can fold up a blanket if you needed to. Pushing the left hand into the floor, I want you to take your right hand onto your sacrum, into the low back. So bringing the right hand maybe onto the right side of your pelvis. We're really tight in the shoulders. So that's probably about as far as they go. Take a big breath in, and then as you exhale, I want you to rotate that right shoulder back, but don't adjust the hips. So the reason the hand is here is to keep the hips parallel and level with the floor beneath you. So we really want to isolate. In me, it's a very small movement, but I'm really feeling this almost in the tip edge of that right shoulder blade. So we'll lower the right shoulder blade, shoulder down, palm of the hand to the floor, bend your left elbow. First, just rest it on the side or the base of the sacrum. So you can place it on the side of your left hip or the sacrum. Take a big breath in. So I want you to try to rotate right ribs and shoulders forward, left ribs and shoulders back. But your hips are staying neutral. So both hips are down to the floor. Okay, you can maybe bring your gaze or keep your gaze to look down. Lower the left hand to the floor. So pretty small movement. One more time. Left hand stays down. Right hand on maybe to the side of the pelvis. Big breath in. So it's like you're rotating now, left ribs and shoulders forward, right ribs and shoulders back, but hips stay square. So both hip pointers down. Your left hand is really active. That's what's helping you push and press and to create that rotation through the upper thoracic. Last time, right hand to the floor. It's a bit of demand on our shoulders. Left hand onto either the left side of the pelvis, sacrum, and then as you rotate, it's right ribs and shoulders forward, left ribs and shoulders back. So it's the right arm that's really pressing down. Hips are squared. Draw the sides of the pelvis to the midline of the body, and then we'll rotate left hand to the floor. Take a moment just to sit back on the heels, wide-legged child's pose. Shift your knees out to the side, and bringing your elbows up, just making fists with the wrist, rotating in one direction, and then followed by its opposite. And while we're here, I'd like you to take your hands as far over to the right side as you can, reaching the left arm forward. Now the forehead can lower to the floor, or you can stack your right forearm, so it becomes a bit of a bridge for the forehead to rest. So big breath in, we'll breathe into the lateral left side of the ribs. As you exhale, soften through the top of the left shoulder, and let that left sit bone fall over towards the heel. So one more big breath in, looking towards your hands. Let's shift, walking the hands now over to the left side, reaching the right fingertips forward, either the forehead to the floor or bending your left elbow so the forehead can rest on something very important for the neck. And then in this pose, because it's a lateral stretch, it should feel like someone's kind of pulling the right fingertips forward as we're being drawn with that right sit bone back. Big breath into the right side. Nice big exhale out. One more inhalation here. And then exhale, looking at your hands. And then we'll walk the hands towards the shins. Let's adjust the knees so they're forward, and we'll draw into hands and knees. Last downward dog. So spreading the fingers nice and wide. So here's the appropriate way. Send your feet back. So you're in a plank position. Without adjusting the hands and the feet, lift the hips up. So nice long spine. Press the shoulders away from the ears. So lots of space between the shoulders and the ears. Big bend into one knee. It's our last one. Working from hip to hip and side to side. Good. As you exhale, we'll bend into the knees, coming back down onto all fours. So from here, we'll once again move on to our backs. And I want you to shift your weight so you're laying sort of on your right hip. And from this side laying position, we'll move and roll onto our back. So have your props handy with you, please, your blocks, your pillows. As you roll onto the back, push into the feet, lift the sacrum off the floor, and then just very slowly lower the sacrum down. I'm going to shift the blocks So one of the block is going to draw underneath the head. And this is really important because as we elevate the head, we can actually reduce some of the pressure in the shoulders. I'm just moving away from tension and saying more pressure. Yeah, sometimes tension isn't a bad thing when it is moving and mobilizing muscles, but we don't want the pressure. We're going to roll onto the right side. And with your left leg, you'll place it onto the block so it's underneath kind of the knee joint. And making sure that your knee aligns with your hip in this position. Good. And then the head is elevated on a block. And we're going to create a little bit of active twisting. So with your right hand to the outer edge of the left knee, making sure that the entire time your hip stays on top of one another, or your hips. So at this point, we have this left hip on top of the right hip. Good. I just want you to draw this left arm across the front of the body without adjusting your shoulders. So it's just the arm that's reaching forward. And then on the exhalation, we're going to open that arm up and slowly begin to draw the arm back without adjusting the legs and the hips. So this right hand is working really hard to make sure that that left leg doesn't move. Big breath in. Let's draw the arm in front. So don't adjust the shoulders, just reach the arm forward, okay? So almost as if that pose that we were doing a little bit earlier on our back when we lifted the hands up towards the ceiling and move the shoulder blades away from the back. And then we're going to open up on the exhalation. So I just want you to do that a few more times. Take a big breath in. Let's center the arm just across the chest. Good. Pause and hold, fingers draw forward. And all of this is about that exhale. So on the exhalation, just really let go. And it's the twist that's happening. So you're not pushing the arm towards the floor. We're trying to create the rotation. So those lower ribs that are touching the floor, it's going to be your right side. Those are drawing up, and your left ribs and shoulders draw back. Okay. So once again, send the arm in front, just kind of resets the shoulders, and then big exhalation. We're going to open up. And then I just want you to pause in this space. So find perhaps a slight bend into that left elbow. Take a big breath in. We're breathing into the left side of the ribs. And then as you exhale again, it's all about the twist versus the arm. So as you twist, as you breathe, it's the exhalation that creates that movement almost automatically. The arm begins to draw towards the floor. So this stretch, one of the best stretches you can do for your upper chest and your upper back. It gets also into the pecs. If it starts to feel it's too much, your modification is to bend your left elbow, rest the hand at the waist. So if I always give one pose to moms to do every single day, moms that are still bottle feeding or breastfeeding, this is the pose. And try to stay in here for however long you can. Take a big breath in, breathe into the lower belly as you exhale. Let the weight of the lower belly soften towards the lower spine. So once again, send that arm forward. Good. Reaching the fingertips in front, and then we'll place the hand at the waist. So you just kind of lay onto your back. Take a moment to push into the feet. Lift the pelvis up first. Good. Here we can draw the knees into the chest and just take that nice little rock from side to side. I would like you just to roll over to the other side if you feel like you don't need to have eyes on me. Otherwise, I'm just going to shift to the other side so that you have a visualization on me. But I'd like you now to lay over onto that left side. So you'll take your blocks. You know the pose. One's going to move underneath the head. The other is going to move underneath now your right knee as we lay onto the side. So really important here. And you can shift this left arm forward if you need, but it does hold onto the outer edge, of course, of that right leg. Okay. So here we are. You know the pose now. Let's reach the right arm in front. Don't shift the shoulders at this point. Just trying to extend through the fingertips. See if you can kind of move the shoulder joint towards the front of the chest. And then on the exhalation, I'd like you just to open up. And as you do so, please make sure that the left hand is holding on to the outer edge of that right leg so the hips don't move. You're just going to start to work at your own pace. So there's no way to make this pose wrong. Just reaching those arms in front, just kind of resets the shoulders, and then big exhale. So there's traction through this right leg as you open up through that side. Arm comes forwards whenever you feel the need to adjust. And then on that exhalation, let the arm draw behind, keeping the hips as they are. Good. Perhaps a slight bend into the left arm. You'll find that your head just kind of starts to move forward and gently move back, which is okay. So big breath in, moving on that exhalation, taking that right arm behind. And then I'd like you to pause here. Let the fingertips just rest into the palm of the hand, perhaps a slight bend into that right elbow. We have a big breath in, breathing into the right side of the ribs. And then with every exhalation, we begin to unwind. So letting go vertebrae by vertebrae. Deep inhalation, even connecting in towards the lower part of the belly. And as you exhale, let the weight of the lower belly begin to soften towards the low spine. One more big breath in. Nice big exhale out. Let's send that left arm forward one more time. Reach the fingertips beyond, and then we'll lay the hand at the waist. So here, just roll onto the back. I'm just going to switch sides to join you. As you roll onto the back, push into the pads of the feet. Please lift the pelvis up just to reset, and then lower the pelvis down. Taking a moment to bring the knees into the chest, you can wrap your arms around your shins, and we have that nice gentle rock from side to side. So our very last pose, it's also nice if you need to lift your chin to the chest, forehead towards the knees. Last pose. Pads of the feet to the floor. So we're going to come back to that first stretch we did. So laying and stretching the feet wide and long, arms alongside the body, palms of the hands face up. If you need some support here, because we will be moving into Shavasana, then you can place the block underneath your head if you need. The feet are wide, feet are hip width apart or a little bit wider. Take any of those adjustments until you feel even on that left and right side. So sometimes it feels like we have to tuck the shoulder blades underneath to feel that balance, and then the eyes close. So let's take a nice big breath in, reconnecting with the chest and the heart. Big audible exhale out. So one more as such, take a full inhalation to lift and expand. And then big exhale to let go. Slide the arms so they're shoulder height. So we take the arms into a T position. Palms of the hands will once again face down. And here, noticing how easy maybe the palms of the hands come towards the floor. Do you notice a change in comparison to the very first time we did this? For me, my thumbs are a lot easier towards the floor. And I'm certainly finding the outer edges of my feet are connecting more closely towards the mat. So we'll take a big inhalation here. On the exhalation, hover the hands off the mat. You're going to roll the palms of the hands all the way back. And as you do so, you're going to draw the feet and the thighs in. So pausing and holding here, just noticing your range. Do you find just a little bit more range in your hips and your pelvis? And then the palms of the hands draw down. Rest completely. Let the arms fall towards the floor. Feet draw wide. Take a big breath in. We'll do that one more time. So as you exhale, you might have to bring your legs just a little bit closer together. Let's hover the hands off the wall. The palms of the hands started facing down. Then we're going to rotate from the shoulders all the way back. As we do so, we're going to also internally rotate our thighs. So the toes point towards one another. The hip pointers draw in towards the midline of the body. And then we exhale, let everything go. Slide the arms alongside the body. We'll just move into our Shavasana position. Feet are wider, a little further. Readjust the legs if you need. And the eyes stay soft. Let's place the hand on the belly, one hand on the heart. Taking a moment here when you inhale, just noticing your breath. So noticing where you have the tendency to naturally breathe to and through. Notice which one rises more. So if at the beginning you felt that you were that chest gripper, that chest breather, do you now feel more availability and perhaps that first contact of breathing into your belly? Neither is necessarily right or wrong. It's just what works with your body. It's always nice to change positions, changing the breath. If you breathe into your chest, try to move the breath into different spaces. With change comes opportunity and it comes growth. Opportunity to find different aspects about ourselves, to find different sources of strength, different sources of activation intelligence, awareness, all of it. Just gently taking the hands back alongside the body, palms the hands to face up. And here we'll lay in stillness. So with each and every sensation of your exhalation, trying to let go. We're letting go first and foremost of any physical tension or tightness, but as always, letting go of any emotional stress or strain that no longer serves you at this moment. Your baby is safe, sleeping, or in the arms of another loved one. This time and this space is for you. And then bringing your attention and your awareness to the back line of the body. Noticing that space between the shoulder blades. Does it now feel even between the left and right side? Does it feel more dense, grounded? And as we lay in this stillness, taking time for ourselves, please give homage, thanks to all of your body that is nourishing your baby. These rounded feeding positions can be really challenging for our physical body, but they're very nourishing towards our own heart. So you are doing the best that you can in this moment for your baby. And you need to say thank you to your body. You need to say thank you to your heart. And you need to say thank you to yourself. Please feel free to stay here for however long you choose. Your time to rest, your time to pay homage to yourself and to all that you do each and every day for your family, for your children, and of course for you. I wish you a lovely day. Thank you for joining me today. I hope you have some shiny shoulders, so enjoy them. Namaste.